The Arctic Circle is, well, one of the planet's most fragile ecosystems, home to species uniquely adapted to its brutal cold and extreme conditions. But as temperatures rise and human activity creeps northward, many of these animals are, facing extinction. The threat isn't always dramatic or sudden. It's often slow erosion, thinning ice, declining prey, shrinking habitat. Here are 10 of the most endangered species in the Arctic today, each on the brink in its own way. The polar bear stands as a stark symbol of Arctic climate change. These apex predators rely on sea ice to hunt seals, their primary food source. As the ice melts earlier and forms later each year, polar bears are forced to swim longer distances, fast for extended periods, and venture closer to human settlements in search of food. Cubs suffer the most. Fewer are surviving to adulthood. The species isn't just a poster child for global warming, it's sadly an early casualty. Then there's the Arctic fox, once widespread across the tundra but now struggling in many regions. Their thick white coats make them perfectly suited to freezing temperatures but not to competition. As the climate warms, red foxes, larger, more aggressive and less tolerant of cold, are expanding northward, outcompeting Arctic foxes for food and den space. Disease and fluctuating lemming populations only make survival harder. The narwhal, often called the unicorn of the sea, is elusive and mysterious. These tusked whales spend much of their lives under thick ice, surfacing through small openings to breathe. But as sea ice disappears and boat traffic increases, narwhals are under stress. Noise pollution from ships and oil exploration interferes with their echolocation, and changing sea temperatures affect the distribution of fish they depend on. Beluga whales are another Arctic marine mammal under threat. Known for their haunting calls and social behavior, belugas are extremely sensitive to environmental changes. Melting ice opens up previously inaccessible areas to ships and industrial activity, leading to more noise, more pollution, and more disturbances in beluga feeding and calving grounds. Some subpopulations, like those in the Cook Inlet, are critically endangered with only a few hundred individuals left. The walrus, with its giant tusks and bulk, might seem indestructible, but it too depends on sea ice for resting, giving birth, and evading predators. As the ice retreats further from shore, walruses are forced to haul out on land in massive numbers, sometimes in the tens of thousands. These gatherings can lead to deadly stampedes, especially when spooked. Calves are often crushed. Without reliable ice, walruses must travel farther to find food, burning more energy than they can afford. The bowhead whale is one of the longest living mammals on Earth. Some may be over 200 years old. They've survived centuries of whaling, but now they face subtler threats. Their Arctic habitat is rapidly changing. Bowheads depend on quiet, icy waters for migration and feeding, but increasing ship traffic disrupts these patterns. And while their populations are slowly recovering in some areas, the long-term outlook is uncertain as the region warms. The ivory gull is a ghost-like seabird that nests on remote Arctic cliffs and ice. Unlike many birds, it scavenges on seal carcasses left by polar bears and hunts fish and invertebrates along ice edges. With fewer polar bears and less ice, food sources are vanishing. On top of that, ivory gulls have some of the highest levels of environmental contaminants ever recorded in birds, especially mercury and PCBs, likely from long-range industrial pollution. Lemmings, small rodent-like mammals, might not seem critical, but they're a linchpin of the Arctic food web. They reproduce quickly and serve as the primary prey for many predators, including Arctic foxes, snowy owls, and skuas. But lemming populations depend on consistent snow cover, which insulates their tunnels and allows them to feed and breed during the winter. Warmer winters with erratic snow patterns are breaking this cycle, threatening not only lemmings but everything that eats them. The Peril caribou, a small, light-colored subspecies of reindeer found in the Canadian Arctic, is declining rapidly. These caribou are specially adapted to extreme cold and sparse vegetation, but warmer temperatures mean more frequent freeze-thaw cycles, creating layers of ice that block access to the mosses and lichens they need to survive. Their population has dropped by over 70% in recent decades, and habitat fragmentation is making recovery harder. Finally, the Steller's eider, the smallest eider duck, breeds in the Russian and Alaskan Arctic and winters along seacoasts. This species relies on wet tundra habitats for nesting, which are drying out or being degraded by oil development and warming conditions. Steller's eiders are particularly vulnerable because they have such specialized breeding requirements. A few poor breeding years in a row can cause population crashes. The Arctic's endangered species aren't just random victims of climate change. They're early indicators of a collapsing ecosystem, a warning system flashing red. Some of these species have been around for millennia, surviving ice ages and natural cycles of change. But they're not equipped to handle the pace and scale of human-driven disruption. Protecting them means more than saving animals. It means defending the last wild frontier on Earth, and with it, the climate stability of the entire planet.